Hey everybody, I wanted to quickly show you guys something that is one of my favorite parts about living in California. I was on my walk earlier today and I took a new path. I've been trying to get some walking in while I'm at home from work. And I came across a huge patch of wild fennel. This wild fennel is so amazing, and it's one of my favorite parts of living in California because a couple times a year it blossoms into the beautiful yellow flowers on top. And when you collect that and you dry it, you get fennel pollen, which is probably my favorite spice to cook with. And so I want to show you how I harvest the fennel pollen real quick. If you've got wild fennel where you are, you can harvest it this way as well. But if you're growing fennel at home, then check it out. So I'm in Mill Valley right here, and on my walk today, again, I came across this huge patch of wild fennel. Check that out. So incredible. And this is starting to pop off. It's not quite there yet. And I want to show you what I look for when I'm looking at wild fennel for fennel pollen. You can see these flowers, these yellow flowers, as they start to go yellow. This pod is not quite there. You can tell it's not quite as fluffy and full as some of the others. So, you know, that is still something that I would probably still harvest. As these are a little bit more green, I would probably avoid, you know, harvesting that or this. But you can see some of those fluffy boys back there are looking really great and full of fennel pollen. You can see the bees love it as these bumblebees get up there. Oh, look at, you can even see on that bumblebee all the pollen on his legs as she's climbing around. Hopefully you can see that, those little yellow bundles on the bee's hind legs. That's pollen that bee is getting naturally from these pollen plants. And so it's an absolutely lovely spot and a great day out here today. Not too hot. Mount Tam there in the background, back behind me here in Mill Valley, and time to start harvesting. I'm gonna dry this fennel pollen out, but you can totally use this fresh as well. It's super amazing stuff, and it's just really pungent. Back east, we used to pay like 30 bucks an ounce for it. You've seen me use this in a couple of videos before. I'll link, so feel free to click through and check out those recipes where I use it. But it's so wonderful. Use it in place of fennel seed all the time. It's great in pastas and ragouts, curries even. It's so delicious. So I'll show you up close how I'm harvesting it. All right, so you can see we're along our fennel patch here, and it should be noted that I am not harvesting this from a place where there's a lot of vehicular traffic. There's a street maybe, I don't know, 150 yards that way behind me here, but it's a very rarely used street. There's not a lot of traffic on it. This is right on a walking path though, and so you may see some people, and I've got my mask to cover my face once I get going here when I'm gonna talk to you. But you wanna make sure you're harvesting this at a place where you're not gonna have any cross contaminants or anything like that getting onto the fennel. You don't want anything too low to the ground where animals are watering it for you. But again, this could be growing in your garden. You want to make sure you have a good source for it, just like anything that you're foraging out in the wild. All right, so I just kind of try to find the fluffiest of the kind of pods here, and you know, I used to take these, when I would harvest, I would clip them right below their flower pod right here, kind of into a bag. And what I realized is that when you go to dry it, it's just so much work. It's much more work to do it that way, and the best way to harvest this, I think, is to clip this just below the head of the main part here. I'm going to dry this whole just like this, and then when it's dry, you can just kind of rub the little pods off the end. Now again, you can take this and bruise it in your fingers, and man, it is like intoxicatingly fennelly. It's so strong right now, and it will continue to be strong, which is part of why we like it. And it should be noted too, I'm not taking anything that's in short supply. This stuff is everywhere here. I mean, literally everywhere. And so I'm gonna grab the fluffiest of these, and once it's dry, it takes a lot. It's not very heavy. And so my goal is to harvest this and get probably half a pound of it through my gatherings. That's a lot of fennel pollen. I give it out as gifts, and I cook with it a lot. So let's get started. Okay, I've been going about 20 minutes, half an hour, I don't know, haven't been that long. I got a pretty good box going here, and this is gonna dry down. When all this dries down, I might get an ounce or two out of this volume. You know, this is probably, I don't know, 6 by 12 by 24-inch box, and so this is gonna be great. I've got to cook a little bit more. When we get back to the house, I'll show you what I do with it. Watch out for bees, they're everywhere. All right, so you've picked a bunch of wild fennel. Now what do you do with it? Well, you should dry it. And the best way to do that is if you have a food dehydrator. I've got one at the cooking school, but I don't have one at home. And it can be a challenge if you have a lot of fennel to dry. These machines can be a little bit small. You can also lay it out on trays and let it sit out in the sunlight or outside or just on your counter for 7 or 8 days if you have the space in the room. I do not in the studio. It's a big, huge studio here, not my, reminder, not my apartment. But what I did was a really easy hack for drying a couple of different things, different types of herbs and stuff at home. I have my oven, and I had it set to 170 degrees, which is the lowest my oven will go. Most home residential ovens will only go down to about 170. If you have a lower setting, or if you have a bougie-ass stove that can get lower than that and has a dehydrate setting, then by all means. But most home residential stoves and ovens that I've worked with only get down to about 170. Not a big deal. That's a little aggressive. And so what I did is I put my layers of fennel out on the sheet pans and with parchment underneath them for easy collecting of anything that falls off. And then I put them in that oven once it was preheated, but I kept the door a little bit cracked. I just kind of stuck a pair of tongs in there, so easy enough. And I did that for about 3 hours. Now, when I was done, it was very late or early in the morning, it was about 2 a.m., and so it was time to go to bed. So I took the tongs out, I shut the door, I turned the oven off, and I just let it cool down naturally. And when I woke up, I had a pretty good product. And so I want to show you what that looks like. All right, here we go. Looks pretty good. And you can see that the stems that were nice and green are now kind of gone a little bit brown. And you'll notice definitely that the yellow color has lost some of its brightness. It's kind of not held on to that bright yellow. It's gone a little bit darker, and that's okay. The goal for this is that these little flower bits are crispy, and one of the advantages of keeping these in these together pods, you know, and there's the whole stem when I pick it, is that it's easy to kind of handle at this stage in the game. And so all I do is very simple. I just kind of rub these little flower bits, and I'll do this while I'm watching TV, going on a Netflix binge or something, but I just take these and I will just kind of crush them with my fingertips. I don't want to get a lot of that stem in there. It's really important, and I just want to kind of get the flower bits. The stem can slip through any sieving that you do. When I started doing this, I thought to myself, oh, I know, I'll sift it through a fine mesh sieve, but those little stems, they kind of slide right through, and then you have to grind the whole thing, and that really loses the beautiful appeal of the fennel pollen. What I'm left with is this little stickly bit that goes away into the compost. And then I'll just sit and do that. And this goes pretty quickly as well, you know. Again, what I gathered yesterday was that nice big box, and that will probably get me several tablespoons, maybe a half cup of fennel pollen. We'll see how much I end up getting out of it. But it's so fragrant and so lovely. And so I hope if you find some wild fennel growing around your area or maybe in your garden that you harvest it. It's so yummy and so delicious. Fiore di finocchia is so celebrated in Italian cuisine. You add it to sausage or pasta dishes. So yummy. I love it on everything, and so it'll go great in your kitchen with your food. You'll see it through many of our recipes on our channel here, Phil in the Food, and we can't wait to have you back then. Make sure you hit like and subscribe and get back and see how we use this in our recipes all over the place. It's gonna be delicious.